The ownership fantasy. So you want to own a horse racetrack. You picture packed grandstands and millions changing hands every race day. But in 2025, more than $11 billion was wagered on American thoroughbred racing. And many tracks still needed money from somewhere else. That $11 billion is called handle, the total amount bet. It is not racetrack revenue. Most of it goes back to winning bettors, and the amount left over must be divided among the track, horse owners, wagering platforms, taxes, breeding funds, and the technology that calculates every payout. There is an even stranger detail. Of the roughly $11 billion wagered on United States thoroughbred racing in 2025, only about $683 million was bet on track. More than $10 billion arrived from somewhere else. Mobile accounts, off-track locations, simulcast rooms, and bettors watching a video signal hundreds of miles away. So the grandstand can look empty while the race is commercially valuable. It can also look full while the owner earns very little from the betting. The central question is not how much money passes through the betting pools. It is how much of each wager reaches your business after everyone with a legal or contractual claim takes a piece, and whether that piece can support a small city built around an oval. That creates the racetrack paradox. You provide the land, horses, staff, safety systems, and live spectacle. Yet the most valuable customer may never enter your property. Ownership depends on who controls the wager, not merely who hosts the race. To understand whether the owner wins, we have to reconstruct what a racetrack really is. It is part stadium, part television studio, part regulated gambling network, part equine industrial site, and sometimes part casino license. The horses are the most visible component. Economically, they are only the beginning. What you are actually buying. A racetrack acquisition can mean radically different things. In 2019, Churchill Downs Incorporated bought Turfway Park in Kentucky for $46 million. In 2022, it paid $79 million for Ellis Park Racing and Gaming. Those were not simple purchases of dirt ovals and grandstands. The properties came with operating histories, licenses, racing dates, customer relationships, and, critically, connections to historical racing machines. At the opposite extreme, Churchill Downs has announced a planned investment of roughly $280 to $300 million for a new premium building on just the first turn of its flagship Louisville track. One structure at an elite venue can therefore cost several times the purchase price of an entire regional racetrack. Physically, you may be buying 100 to 300 acres, the length of the oval. It is determined by the rights wrapped around it. Racing dates, wagering permissions, gaming privileges, media value, real estate, and the legal ability to keep operating. A dirt course, perhaps a turf course, grandstands, kitchens, bars, parking, barns, a paddock, jockey rooms, dormitories, maintenance buildings, veterinary areas, and miles of drainage, irrigation, fencing, rail, and underground utilities. Operationally, you need a tote system to combine wagers and calculate odds, cameras to judge finishes, a broadcast crew to export the signal, stewards and racing officials, security, medical teams for humans and horses, starting gate crews, groundskeepers, ticketing, food service, and a backstretch workforce that begins long before the public gates open. And then there is the license. Racing is regulated state by state. Dates can require approval. Wagering rules differ by jurisdiction. Agreements with horsemen may determine purse contributions and racing conditions. A buyer cannot assume that every permission automatically moves with the land. That is why the cheapest-looking track can become the expensive one. A worn surface, aging grandstand, or weak racing calendar can consume capital long before the license produces useful cash flow. Before the first customer places a bet, you can spend millions repairing a venue that earns serious revenue only on selected days. The asset is enormous, but its productive calendar may be surprisingly small. Working capital matters for the same reason. Payroll, insurance, utilities, track maintenance, marketing, and preparation arrive before wagering revenue settles. If a meet opens weekly, the owner cannot simply stop watering the surface, dismiss the safety crew, or turn off half the barns. The show must remain credible enough to attract horses, because without horses, there is no betting product. The $100 bet. Imagine a customer places $100 into a pari-mutuel pool. The track does not bet against that customer. Instead, all wagers of the same type are pooled together. A regulated percentage, the takeout, is removed, and the remainder is returned to winning tickets. Takeout varies by state and wager type, but a simplified example might return around $80 to bettors and leave $20 to be distributed. Portions may go to purses, taxes, breeding programs, the wagering operator, the host track, and transaction systems. Where the bet is placed changes the answer. An on-track wager may leave you a larger commission. Through an outside mobile platform, that company controls the customer while your track receives a negotiated host or signal fee. Two identical $100 bets on the same horse can have different economics for the racetrack. The horse is identical, the race is identical, and the payout is identical. Only the customer's location and platform have changed. This explains why total handle can create a false impression of scale. A track reporting $100 million of all sources handle has not earned $100 million. If its blended retained wagering revenue were an illustrative 6% after distributions, its gross wagering revenue would be $6 million. From that must come the cost of producing the racing product. The shift away from the grandstand makes this more important. In 1996, on-track thoroughbred handle in the United States was nearly $3 billion. By 2025, it was under $700 million. Remote wagering gives your races a national audience, but it inserts distributors between you and the bettor. The owner must create races people want, then preserve enough margin when outside platforms sell them. But hospitality has a brutal limitation. You can sell the same premium seat once per race day. A digital racing signal can accept wagers from thousands of customers at once. One is high-margin scarcity, the other is low-margin scale. The best operators combine both. The Kentucky Derby demonstrates the extreme version. In 2025, nearly 147,000 people attended, while all sources wagering on the Derby race reached a record $234.4 million. The entire Derby Day program generated $349 million in wagers. Yet even there, record betting did not guarantee a matching increase in racetrack profit. Churchill Downs reported that higher wagering and sponsorship revenue during the second quarter were offset by lower Derby week ticketing revenue and higher pari-mutuel taxes, leaving adjusted earnings at the racetrack below the comparable period. A wagering record is not an earnings record. If America's most famous race can produce record handle while a property-level profit measure declines, a regional owner should stop treating money bet as money earned. The field-size flywheel. A racetrack does not manufacture its own inventory. It needs independent owners and trainers to bring horses. Those participants compare purses, competition, travel costs, stable space, racing surfaces, and schedules across multiple tracks. Purses are therefore not merely prizes. They are the track's content acquisition budget. Offer competitive purses and a convenient calendar, and more trainers may enter. Larger, balanced fields create more possible outcomes and more betting combinations. That tends to make the wagering product more interesting. The customer sees 8 horses in a starting gate. The owner sees 8 suppliers who had to be persuaded to provide inventory. If only 5 arrive, the race still runs. But the betting product may be worth much less. Now the flywheel becomes visible. The 2025 national numbers show both sides. United States thoroughbred wagering fell about 2% to just over $11 billion. The number of races fell from roughly 30,850 to 29,400. Because the calendar contracted faster than betting, average wagering per race day rose by more than 3%. The national betting day became more productive, but the property did not become smaller. Fewer race days can concentrate demand while leaving the owner with nearly the same annual land, facility, and core staff costs. This creates one of the owner's hardest decisions: run more dates to use the asset and serve horsemen, or run fewer dates to avoid diluting horses and bettors across weak cards. There is also a quality threshold. Bettors need reliable pools, video, surfaces, and data. A delay at the gate can cause remote customers to move their money to another track starting on time. The costs that never cross the finish line. On a quiet morning, a racetrack looks dormant. Financially, it is wide awake. The dirt course must be harrowed, graded, watered, and tested. A turf course requires mowing, irrigation, repair, and protection from overuse. Drainage systems must handle extreme weather. Rails, starting gates, barns, roofs, elevators, kitchens, electrical systems, and grandstands age whether the betting pools are growing or shrinking. The expensive part is not making horses run for 2 minutes. It is maintaining a regulated ecosystem in which horses can arrive, live, train, race, be televised, and leave safely, whether the crowd is large or not. Some costs move with attendance. Fewer guests mean less food and temporary labor. Many important costs do not. Property taxes or rent, insurance, management salaries, technology contracts, security systems, debt service, and basic maintenance continue. Deferred maintenance is a loan the racetrack makes to itself. The grandstand may look profitable for years, until a roof, drainage system, racing surface, or technology replacement demands the missing capital all at once. The largest operators reveal the scale. In 2025, Churchill Downs Incorporated recorded more than $220 million of depreciation across its portfolio. Within its live and historical racing segment, it reported roughly $44 million of maintenance, insurance, and utility expenses, nearly $143 million in salaries and benefits, and about $349 million in pari-mutuel taxes and purses. Those portfolio figures are not a budget for one track. They show how quickly attractive revenue meets obligations a casual observer never sees. If your model works only before maintenance, insurance, purses, taxes, and replacement capital, it does not work. You have calculated the economics of opening the gates, not the economics of owning the property. Weather makes the operating leverage worse. Rain may reduce attendance, cancel turf races, create scratches, shrink fields, and lower food sales. But many people have already been scheduled, horses have already shipped, and the venue has already been prepared. Debt adds another fixed claim. A buyer who finances an acquisition has transformed an unpredictable racing calendar into a predictable monthly payment. If interest rates reset or a renovation runs over budget, the lender does not accept short field as an explanation. Safety failures harm horses and people first. They can also trigger investigations, cancellations, insurance pressure, and lost confidence among horsemen and bettors. Safety is not an accessory. It is part of the license to operate. The business hiding behind the horses. At many modern racetracks, live racing is no longer the entire economic engine. It may support access to another form of gaming. Depending on the jurisdiction, tracks may operate slot machines, video lottery terminals, casinos, or historical racing machines. Historical racing machines look similar to electronic gaming terminals, but outcomes are derived from previously run races and wagers are structured through pari-mutuel systems. The legal details vary, but the business effect can be dramatic. Gaming operates more days, serves customers continuously, and can generate revenue without waiting for a live field to reach the starting gate. This changes what ownership means. The horses may attract the cameras and preserve the racing license, while a room of electronic machines produces steadier cash flow. The visible business becomes the key to another one. Churchill Downs Incorporated provides a useful scale comparison. In 2025, across the company's portfolio, external revenue from live and simulcast racing was about $492 million. Historical racing generated just over $1 billion. Conventional gaming generated roughly $918 million. Inside the company's live and historical racing segment, historical racing alone produced about $1 billion of external revenue, compared with roughly $98 million from live and simulcast racing and about $184 million from racing event-related services. Read those numbers carefully. They do not make every racetrack a gaming empire. They show that legislation can determine a track's profit engine more decisively than attendance, tradition, or the result at the finish line. The subsidy can also flow indirectly. In some states, a portion of casino or gaming revenue is directed into purse accounts and breeding programs. This supports larger purses, which can attract horses and protect the racing calendar. But earmarked purse money is not free cash for the track owner. It strengthens the product while remaining restricted in use. A $5 million purse subsidy can make your races more valuable without adding $5 million to own a profit. It buys better inventory. Whether you monetize that inventory still depends on handle, distribution, hospitality, and your retained share. This creates political risk. A legislature can change tax rates, gaming permissions, required race dates, or the allocation between purses and public programs. An ownership model that is excellent under one statute may be ordinary under the next. It also creates a strategic trap. If gaming is profitable and live racing is expensive, the owner has an incentive to satisfy racing obligations efficiently. Horsemen want dates and purses. Regulators want compliance and public benefit. Bettors want competitive fields. Shareholders want returns. A gaming-backed track must keep four groups aligned: horsemen, regulators, bettors, and shareholders. The gaming floor may stabilize cash flow, but racing still has to remain credible enough to justify the rights attached to it. The strongest version of the model has multiple engines: national wagering distribution, premium live events, year-round gaming, sponsorship, food and beverage, and valuable land. The weakest version owns a giant seasonal property, depends on local attendance, and has no control over the mobile customer relationship. Arlington and the value of stopping. Arlington International Racecourse once represented nearly everything a prestigious track was supposed to be. It occupied 326 acres in a wealthy Chicago suburb, had a grandstand built after a famous 1985 fire, and hosted the Arlington Million. But its final race was run in September 2021. Churchill Downs Incorporated agreed that month to sell the property to the Chicago Bears for $197.2 million. The transaction closed in February 2023. The company reported net proceeds of $195.7 million and a gain of $114 million. Arlington's final economic lesson did not come from a winning horse. It came from the land underneath the track. 326 acres were worth nearly $200 million to a buyer that did not want racing at all. The numbers do not prove that every year of racing at Arlington was unprofitable. They demonstrate something more important. A racetrack has two valuations. The first is operating value, the cash flow from wagering, events, gaming rights, and hospitality. The second is alternative use value, what another buyer can do with the land. If the second rises above the first, the owner must justify continuing to race not only against other tracks, but against housing, retail, logistics, parks, or a football stadium. Now compare that sale with the $79 million Churchill Downs paid for Ellis Park Racing and Gaming in 2022. One property was valuable as land after racing stopped. The other was valuable as a licensed racing and gaming platform. The oval shape did not determine either price. That is why land can be both protection and threat. It provides collateral and an exit option. But high land value also raises taxes, opportunity cost, and pressure to redevelop. The asset beneath the business may eventually compete with the business itself. For a weak operator, valuable land can hide years of mediocre racing returns. The eventual sale may rescue the investment, but that does not retroactively turn the operating business into a good business. To see the difference, consider a transparent illustrative model for a regional thoroughbred track. Assume you buy and renovate the property for $55 million, including working capital. Half is financed at 8%, creating about $2.2 million of annual interest before principal repayment. The track runs 60 days with 9 races per day. At $2.5 million of all sources handle per day, annual handle reaches $150 million. If the track's blended retained wagering revenue is 6% after required distributions, it receives $9 million. Add $6 million of net revenue from admissions, parking, food, suites, sponsorships, simulcasting, and rentals. Total operating revenue is $15 million. Now assign $12 million to annual fixed and semi-fixed operating costs, plus $2 million for race day variable costs not already removed from the wagering share. The property generates $1 million before interest, taxes, depreciation, and major replacement capital. That is the surprise. $150 million can pass through the betting pools, and a seemingly healthy track can still fail to cover the interest on a moderately financed acquisition. Now reduce handle by 20%. Wagering revenue falls from $9 million to $7.2 million. Let ancillary net revenue fall 15% to $5.1 million. Costs decline by only $600,000 because the land, surfaces, core staff, insurance, and scheduled race days remain. The result moves from a $1 million operating profit to roughly a $1.1 million operating loss before interest and capital expenditure. A modest deterioration in demand produces a much larger deterioration in owner economics. Now add a permitted gaming operation or contractual gaming allocation contributing $6 million after its direct cost. Suddenly, the strong case can service debt and fund improvements, while the weak racing case may remain viable. This is not a universal racetrack budget. The assumptions will vary enormously by jurisdiction and property. The exercise reveals the controlling variables: retained revenue per dollar wagered, field quality, race dates, fixed cost burden, financing, ancillary spending, and access to non-racing cash flow. The ownership verdict. So what separates a valuable racetrack from an expensive oval? It is not the size of the crowd or even the headline handle. It is control over distribution, competitive horse supply, non-racing rights, and the land's alternative value. A strong owner buys more than a venue. The owner acquires a defensible racing calendar, a signal that remote bettors want, acceptable economics with wagering platforms, enough purse support to attract full fields, premium live events, and either gaming income or another year-round use for the property. The most dangerous racetrack is not an empty one. An empty track makes the problem obvious. The dangerous track is busy enough to look successful while every wager, race day, and repair produces less cash than the owner assumes. The complete answer to the opening mystery is therefore chain. Handle matters, but only after payout and distribution. Distribution matters, but only if the races attract horses and bettors. Better races require purses, dates, safety, and facilities. Those require fixed investment. Fixed investment becomes survivable when the owner adds premium events, gaming, media reach, or valuable real estate. Break any link, and the $11 billion industry can feel strangely poor at the property level. The other may depend on local bettors, share most remote wagering economics, carry expensive debt, and occupy land valuable enough to attract redevelopment pressure. The best racetrack owners understand that the horses create attention, The wagering network converts attention into transactions. Gaming can stabilize cash flow. Hospitality monetizes scarcity, and real estate determines what happens when racing is no longer the highest use. So are you buying a sports venue, a gambling company, a media business, or a real estate option? In the strongest model, you are buying all four, and each one protects the others. In the weakest model, you are buying hundreds of acres, aging infrastructure, and a regulated obligation to stage expensive content for customers controlled by someone else.